match against the Packers. It's coming up this weekend. A lot of people ready for that. But let me tell you about some of the other things that we have planned for you this first hour together, because we are waiting on some live events and we're also lining up some interviews as well. We all know that fentanyl is a major problem in this country, and we have lost far too many people to its grasp. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children, and adults alike. So a representative from the DEA Chicago Field Division is going to be joining me as their Fentanyl Free America campaign is kicking off, and they have some pretty astounding numbers to share with us about what's taken place with that operation thus far, just as it's beginning. Also, the most talked about story out of Hollywood today is the shocking deaths of director, actor, and writer Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. In fact, I think we have a live picture right outside of their home. Their son is now in custody, accused of murdering his parents. TMZ is going to be here around 1:30 or so to discuss the latest developments in that case and how we got to this point. I mean, there's just so much to it. But before we get to the details of it, let me just, go back in time and give you some, things that people are talking about right now. Of course, with Rob Reiner's death and looking even at his star there on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. If you'll recall, I mean, he really is noted as a prolific director in Hollywood, one of the most prolific directors in history, and his work included some of the most memorable movies from the 1980s and the 90s, including this Spinal Tap, A Few Good Men, When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride. I mean, there are really some amazing works that he was a part of. His role as Meathead from the 1970s TV classic All in the Family was one that's still being talked about today, as he often went back and forth with Archie Bunker on a regular basis. He won 2 Emmys for that. He's also the son of comedy legend Carl Reiner, which is maybe even more sad about how he died. But Rob Reiner was married to photographer Michelle Reiner. They met on the set of When Harry Met Sally. They have 3 children. Just a lot to this case. And there are condolences that are pouring in from the mayor of Los Angeles. She said Rob Reiner's contributions reverberate throughout American culture and society, and he's improved countless lives through his creative work and advocacy fighting for social and economic justice. An acclaimed actor, director, producer, writer, engaged political activist. He always used his gifts in service to others. Oddly enough, as we look right outside of their home, and this is super odd, but it is Hollywood and that area here, this is only about a mile. Now, keep in mind how we're saying he passed away from a stabbing death. This is only about a mile from the home where O.J. Simpson's wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were stabbed to death back in 1994. Just a lot that's taken place in that area. And you can see now that detectives are standing outside of the couple's home as we await more information. But again, the biggest piece of it that we're learning at this point in time is that their son, Nick Reiner, is in custody, being booked now for this heinous act that took place at the family's home. So we're going to bring in TMZ in just a bit to talk a little bit more about the investigation, how this couple met their deaths, and some of the information kind of leading up to this point in time, and really where we go from here with that particular case that so many people are talking about and looking for more information on. Again, that should be coming up around 1:30, right around that time frame that we hope to have that. But we are waiting on also a press conference to begin here in our city. We are still in the midst of an ongoing budget battle in the city. City Council now set to meet every single day this week to try to hash things out. There are about 27 alders at this point in time who are opposed to the mayor's budget as it stands. And then there's the big question as to what happens if they are unable to reach an agreement by the end of the month. So just a short time ago, the mayor announced that he was going to give us some press availability here. We're awaiting that time when he comes out for him to give his statement, and also from our side of things, so we can ask more questions as to where things go, or where things stand at this point in time. I mean, is there any wiggle room? Have they made any adjustments, any concessions, any type of middle ground that they're able to reach thus far, or how far away are they from some type of agreement? We're still waiting on all of that information. In fact, we had a press conference earlier today, this morning, with a group that was really talking about youth jobs and how they would be affected by cuts to the budget as it stands right now. So there are so many different aspects to this budget battle, and we are working on covering it all. It's about 1:06 right now, and as we wait on that to begin, we do want to kind of press on with a few other things here. I mentioned that Cassie Carlson is going to be joining me so that we can talk about the Bears. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll bring her in so we can have that discussion while we wait on the mayor. All right, everybody, it's just about 1:10 right now. Cassie Carlson joining me as the Bears prepare for their get-back game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's exciting to have a short week to welcome in the Green Bay Packers.
Oh,
so much
goodness.
is on the line and still ahead for this Bears team. And I love what Caleb Williams said after the win over the Browns yesterday. He said, I remember that last play in Green Bay where he threw the interception in the end zone when he was trying to hit Cole Kmet. So he's excited to welcome in Green Bay on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we've had so many, I mean, it's a storied rivalry, of course. So we've had so many highs and lows, and a lot of them have come at the last second for these Green Bay games. Let's just talk a little bit about the Browns first and foremost, though. What do you think went right? What do you think we need to work on before we get back to Green Bay?
Well, I think a lot went right. Just look at the score, 31-3. And I think you were looking at the Cleveland Browns going into that game saying, this is a 3-win team. They're not really playing for much, but the Bears are riding this emotional roller coaster of finally being a winning team heading into December. Maybe that's what they like to call a trap game in the NFL. And to see the way that they came out so prepared for that game, I think was a credit to the coaching coaching staff and the players who are clearly locked in on the bigger picture of what this season could be. And so I think getting off to a fast start was important. To see Caleb Williams find some completions was important because he talked about wanting to see that first shot go in early in the game to kind of get that passing game going. And I thought the interesting part was that we all thought the conditions and the way that the Browns lost to the Titans the week before, we would see them really run the ball and maybe stick to the run game primarily. But the passing game really came alive in that game. And to see Caleb Williams hit DJ Moore in the back of the end zone for that one viral clip that's going on right now on from our sports photographer, Jeff Weiris, is really cool to see and really promising to see, knowing that you're probably going to need to have both the passing game and run game hit in stride if you want to make it to the playoffs and make a run in January. Yeah,
DJ Moore, of course, hasn't had his best season, so it was beautiful to see that moment. And then in the locker room afterward, him talking about, wait, a 10-win season. Like, has he even experienced that as a Bear?
He hasn't. That's what's crazy. And a lot of these players haven't. DJ Moore came from Carolina, never experienced a winning season there. And then he, of course, had a tumultuous few seasons with Matt Eberflus when he was traded here from Carolina a couple years ago. And so I feel like it's new territory for him. And I think that's where people are maybe getting misconstrued about DJ Moore being unhappy with his role in the offense this year, because DJ Moore has never been a diva of a wide receiver, even in previous years when it may have appeared that way and how his body language looked after certain plays. He's never really been like that.
He's a competitor.
He is. And to see the team and the offense finding stride and having success is more important to DJ Moore than him getting those stats. Granted, always good to find the end zone twice in a game. Like, that's going to make him feel good. I'm sure he's very happy he got his first game ball of the season. But DJ Moore has never really been like that. So to hear him answer some of the questions of, like, did you need this? He's like, what do you mean? You guys are going to still talk about this narrative, even if I say I did or I didn't.
Yeah. Now, we didn't have Rome Odunze out there, hoping that he's well for the Packers. Give us an update on Luther Burden's ankle.
I know.
We've got some things on both sides now going into Saturday's game in terms of injuries that are pretty significant.
Yeah, just talk about the Bears first with Rome Odunze re-aggravating his foot injury in pregame warmups. I think the thing that's most frustrating to Bears fans, and I'm sure it's frustrating to the team as well, is that that's 2 weeks in a row now that they've lost a player in pregame warmups. So that's a reflection on something going on with how they're evaluating some of these players coming back from injuries or trying to get ready to play. And Ben Johnson didn't have an update on Odunze or Luther Burden after the game yesterday. He talks at 3 o'clock today, so that would be the next time we could get an update. And then we're waiting to see what the Bears' schedule is this week, because they do have that shortened week with the game on Saturday. I think the bigger implications come on the Packers side with Micah Parsons. The reports out now that he tore his ACL yesterday, and so he is going to be out for the season. That's typically around a 6-month recovery. And then wide receiver Christian Watson had a scary moment with what appeared to be a chest injury. That he appears to be better than it looked on TV, but they're also going to bring updates later on. And I think Matt LaFleur is talking tomorrow, so those updates probably wouldn't come till then. But losing Micah Parsons, the guy they traded for right before the season, one of the best pass rushers in the league, that's a huge blow to this Packers team who's trying to make the playoffs and win the division as well.
Yeah, and I mean, he's such a change maker for any team. And I will say, we were just talking about like somebody being a competitor. I think anybody, you've played sports, I've played sports, anybody who is a competitor, even if you want to win this game, you really want the other team to be at their best, to be able to say you won when they were at their best, not they lost this person, that, and then we won.
Totally. You don't want it to be an excuse. I don't think it's going to be an excuse. They still have someone like Rashawn Gary who could rack up the sacks as well. But yeah, any competitor would say they want to go up against the best. I mean, for the Bears themselves, I think you can just look at how they handled Myles Garrett. 1.5 sacks is a pretty good day against the league's leading sack master right now, who's now he's two sacks away from the single season sack record. And that's a credit to the offensive line, the way they've played, and for the coaches for getting them ready, and really for rookie Ozzie Trapillo, who is now becoming the starting left tackle, the 2nd round pick. And so, yeah, I mean, the Bears, I'm sure they feel some type of way about Micah Parsons not being out there. That being said, that's not going to be their focus. They know that they were within, one play of tying or beating the Packers a week ago, and that's all they're going to focus on, is making sure they can find their 11th win.
Yeah, and so last season, it was that final play of the game that was here where we thought we had it, field goal attempt, and it gets blocked. This season, final play, and we get the interception. They get an interception on us in the end zone. But last year, the next game, we flipped it.
I know.
Can we do it again?
I mean, they definitely can. I think coming out of that Green Bay game, a lot of people were like, all right, so they played terrible in the first half. The defense gave up a ton of explosive plays. I think the offense had like 71 yards of total offense. Second half, they looked like a completely different team, and you have to credit a team for being able to come out of halftime and make those adjustments. And by the end of the game, whether or not they lost, they were going to come back and win. You felt like the gap of talent and the lopsidedness of the rivalry, that window had closed a lot. And so I think just that, it's not a moral victory, but it gives you a sense of just like the Bears are back in this rivalry. And finally, I'm saying it's because they got their coach right. The difference of a head coach, I was thinking about this when I was watching the Broncos-Packers game last night too, of Sean Payton going into Denver. They're on an 11-game winning streak right now.
Totally changed the team.
The way getting the coach right is the biggest key to unlocking any team. And so the fact that the Bears got that right with Ben Johnson, I think is the most important part to this, is they're going to have to still win one, hopefully 2 more games to make sure that they can get into the playoffs. But you feel good about who's leading this team right now, and especially the way that he just has them locked in.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, could go back into why so many people are like trying to make it on the field, even if they're not fully ready to be on the field.
But you're like, a lot of times you have to hold players back from hurting themselves, and that's where like the training staff comes in. Fans are not happy about all those situations right now. I think it's definitely something they'll look at.
Yeah. Okay. So we still have you mentioned, but let's talk a little bit more in depth about it. We have a very tough road ahead to get to the playoffs. I mean, we're there now, but
no, not quite.
I mean, as it stands.
Yeah, Anita, don't jinx it.
But we have a tough road.
Yeah.
We have a tough road. Like, the math might be in our favor at the moment, but we have a tough road to actually make it happen.
So the NFC is a gauntlet this year, and it used to be the AFC that no one wanted to be a part of because of the Bills, the Chiefs, who are eliminated from the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL.
Exactly.
They missed the playoffs for the first time in the Mahomes era yesterday with their loss. And so the Bears, you're looking at their final 3 games. They have the Packers at home. They're going to go on the road to the 49ers, which is a long travel for any team. And then they have the Lions week 18, and that game is still TBD on when it's going to be played. And so the Bears, they are first in the NFC North as we speak right now, but I have to pull up the graphic and like my little cheat sheet for all the playoff stuff because it's changing. Every week it changes and every game it changes. So the Bears currently hold the 2nd spot in the NFC. So that means if they were to go to the playoffs today, they would play the Packers, but they would have home field advantage. The whole thing about this right now is just so weird of how it's going to play out because the Packers, if they beat the Bears on Saturday, like that switches things up. The Lions and the Bears have yet to play. And so you're just looking, and right now it used to be last year where the Seattle Seahawks had 10 wins. They missed the playoffs. That wasn't enough. And that's like the consensus this year is that 10 wins isn't enough. They're going to need 11. Try to get 12. That would make you feel a lot better. And so the NFC South, not a strong division between the Buccaneers and the Panthers, who are left in that division to make the playoffs. And so it's really going to come down to the NFC North and the Bears just needing to find 2 more wins, 1 more for sure, 2 more, because that magic number is 11 this year. And
Wouldn't it be beautiful?
Oh, it'd be so much fun. You can already feel the buzz in the city.
Yeah. Well, the playoff tickets are already being sold. See, that's another thing.
Yeah, that makes me nervous.
The playoff tickets are already being sold. Like, you can be refunded if we don't end up going.
I know.
But it's an optimistic view of Ticketmaster and the Bears.
I mean, the Bears obviously have to get their ducks in a row for the in case there is going to be some home playoff games. So I respect that part of the business. But I feel like the reaction when that got sent out, I was like, come on. It's like an announcer's jinx. Like, oh, this field goal. And then, like, of course, it's a doink or something. Yeah. But, hey, playoffs in Chicago. I mean, home field advantage would be actually insane.
Would be amazing.
I think people were hoping just a wild card spot, a 7 seed, that would make them happy. But now you're talking about home field advantage potentially. So it would be really fun.
Yeah. I was looking around to see if anyone was like taking off their shirt to be like Ben Johnson. I didn't see much of it in the temperatures that we saw yesterday, or we were feeling yesterday. But thank you, Cassie.
Thanks,
we
Anita.
look forward to more Bears wins. Hopefully at least 1 or 2 more.
Exactly.
1 or 2 more. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. I believe that press conference with the mayor has now begun. begun, so let's go ahead and listen in.
Bill, Villegas, Riley, Quinn, Lopez, Yancey, and Scott. Self-identified representatives of the alternative proposal, with the whole aim of landing a fair budget compromise that ultimately protects Chicagoans from regressive taxes and, of course, from Trump cuts to critical services. Last week, I called all 50 alderpersons in hopes of continuing these critical and time-sensitive discussions, making myself, my IGA, team, policy, budget, and finance teams available last week and throughout the weekend. Unfortunately, only a handful of alder people made themselves available. Our immediate concern, of course, is still to pass a balanced budget this year that protects Chicagoans and avoids a government shutdown. Despite not having their new proposal or ideas, per a statement from proponents of the alternative proposal group, we see that our steadfast advocacy around the importance of funding for youth employment, increasing funding for survivors of gender-based violence, and maintaining CPL's collection fund is now a priority of these alderpersons as well. Their budget proposal or their ideas allegedly removes the garbage fee. Hopefully, this is a sign that through our advocacy for working people, these members understand the importance of not passing budgets that disproportionately impact people already experiencing Trump cuts and struggling to make the ends meet. Our position on our side, we are more than willing to look at any proposal that includes real projections that we can verify with our own numbers, of course. We do have some serious fiscal concerns about some of the fine print of their initial ideas. A budget that relies on overly optimistic revenue projections that fail to materialize will ultimately result in us coming back in the middle of next year to balance our budget to continue the funding of jobs, services, and neighborhood development that Chicagoans have come to rely upon. We need to ensure that all revenue projections are grounded in hard numbers and, of course, reality. Additionally, their proposal would sunset the increase in the PPLT after 1 year, which would blow a massive hole in next year's budget. Currently, because of the structural work that we have put forward and the work that we have done over the first 2 years in office, we are projecting a $477 million gap for next year, which is significantly lower than the budget reality that we came in with. We have reduced the structural imbalance by more than $680 million year over year. With their introduced proposal, we would be looking at a budget gap of more than $700 million, and that's a conservative estimate. We have proposed revenue that is structural so that we can address Chicago's structural deficit with new revenue. We do look forward to the meeting this afternoon as we work to protect working people and, of course, pass a balanced budget. With that, I'm available for questions, and so is my team.
Okay, we're going to do one question and try to get through everybody. Just pass it along. Thanks.
All right. Mayor, it sounds like you're saying that without the corporate head tax, the proposal on the table from the alders, the opposing alders, would exacerbate the city's budget deficit in the coming years, and that it is essential that you have revenue that you can count on. Is that correct? And it seems like, given that the garbage tax has now been abandoned by the alternative proposal, that to these alders the hang up is the corporate head tax. Is that your read of where negotiations are? Well,
I think that the hyper interest of corporations, the corporate head tax has always been the issue, right? So that's not a breaking discovery. But to your frame of your question around ensuring that we have structural revenue sources in place to strengthen the long-term viability of our economy, absolutely. And that's just not my projection or analysis. That includes the analysis of the Civic Federation that understand that, as well as the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club, that in order for us to have a vibrant economy moving forward, the practices that we have implemented over the first couple of years have already put us on a pathway for long-term sustainability.
And very quickly, the Federal Transit Administration wanted your CTA safety plan today. Did you submit it?
I believe that today that's going to happen if it hasn't happened already.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
As far as kind of timing for the budget goes, you know, obviously we're approaching the holiday. Could you give a sense of, do you anticipate a vote this week? Do you anticipate one next week? Are you guys going to be working around the holiday? What is that going to look like?
Well, I'm working, and so is my team, working around the clock, essentially. We were available last week, including the weekend. Only a couple of alders who have expressed concerns about my budget took us up on that offer. In fact, we did have some meetings we thought scheduled, and they were canceled. Our team is available and will continue to be available. And this is not a new project for us. We began working on this the moment I came into office. This year's budget started with conversations and interactions going back 11 months, roundtable discussions, multiple community meetings. So it's clear that our team certainly has the strong work ethic, and we essentially reflect the work ethic of working people. That's why this budget is so critical, because it ultimately protects working people in this city.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
This is the first time we've seen you since Officer Crystal Rivera's family sued the city, alleging the city didn't keep her safe from her former partner, Carlos Baker, and that she was perhaps, you know, that it was a targeted attack as opposed to a tragic accident. Are you concerned that the city did not do enough to protect Officer Rivera?
Well, look, the protection of residents as well as our officers, that's always my top priority. And my prayers are still with Officer Rivera's family. You know, there will be a process that will go through the litigation steps. And so, of course, you know, I can't speak to any of the specifics or the claims that have been made, but I can tell you that our top priority is always to protect residents and, of course, the people who put their lives on the line for the people of this city. And again, our prayers are still with Officer Rivera's family.
And I think I have a question for the budget director, if you don't mind. The alternative budget proposal relies on nearly $50 million from casino games at the airports and sort of expanded gambling. Has your administration determined that that revenue, it cannot be relied on and is not something that should be included in a budget package?
Sure. Jill?
Sure, I can answer that
Jill,
question.
come on over to the microphone.
Thank you, Jill Jaworski, CFO. The revenues that they have proposed are significantly larger than any revenues that our consultant determined would be available if VGTs were approved. Specifically, it looks like they are assuming that we would be at a place where we would have as many VGTs in use as if they had been open, as if we had had VGTs authorized for 10 years under our study. So it was assuming approximately 85% of all locations would have VGTs. Because it takes a long time to go through the licensing process with the Illinois Gaming Board, those are not realistic assumptions that we could rely upon.
Could you speak that in English? You say VGTs, no one understands.
Video gaming terminals.
Could you say it again in a sentence?
Sure. The estimates that they have provided for video gaming terminal revenue, the tax revenue, they're not realistic. We would not have enough video gaming terminals available to generate that tax revenue, even if it was approved with this budget this month.
Hey, Mayor.
Hi.
You've said that you would veto a budget that included garbage fees, and I'm wondering now that you're the people who are opposing your budget and are trying their own are saying they're going to take out garbage fees. Knowing what you know about their budget, would you veto it if it was passed by the City Council?
Well, you know, first of all, it's good that they recognize that my advocacy for working people, it's really to the advantage of all council members to support a budget that protects working people. in terms of what our next steps will be, that's why we're still negotiating. We're not at a point where, I can make, that assertion. What I said, and I still stand by it, is that having a budget that protects working people has always been my top priority, and that's who I'm fighting for. I'm not, necessarily trying to defend these big corporations, right? They already have their defender in chief, and quite frankly, they're already benefiting from tax cuts that they've received from the Trump administration. So quite frankly, they don't need any defense. And we're going to continue to negotiate in good faith. That's why my team was available all weekend. I wish they would have taken us up on it, but at least they did do what I did ask, which was to turn something in so that we can review. Now we can have some substantive conversations around a pathway moving forward, but making it very clear that, look, let's not, burden working people. Let's make sure that youth employment is maintained. Again, there are some concerns about their what, quite frankly, I believe are some exaggerated projections. I don't believe that's responsible budget management, particularly because we know that our economy can be quite elastic, and we have to be open and available to trends that we don't have control over, particularly coming from the federal government.
I want to ask a follow-up on that projection issue. You all have noted that it's illegal for the city to not pass a balanced budget. How does that determination get made? Is there some possibility where you all would rule that that's just not a balanced budget?
Yeah.
Annette Guzman, Budget Director. So, as you know, we have to input the budget into a system and do all the calculations. And per state statute, we have to pass a balanced budget. As I've noted to both the chairman of the budget committee as well as the finance chair, it's important to call upon me to reflect whether or not the projections that have been provided are in fact accurate and based on best practice methodologies. And from what we can tell, because we've run the numbers just based on the ordinance language that they've provided, and it does not reflect a balanced budget currently. And we also didn't get any of their backup to understand what assumptions that they're making within their revenue assumptions. One thing that we did know based on their original letter to us is just a flat out statement that they think that we've estimated based on the monthly revenue reports that we put out every month. And for those who just read monthly revenue reports without understanding the methodology behind it, could overly include one-time revenues in their assumptions that we obviously control for.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I just came from a press conference with members of the alcohol industry, the hospitality industry, and they're concerned about this alternative budget proposal, including changes to the retail sales tax for takeaway alcohol consumption. They're calling that regressive, saying it would hurt small businesses and consumers. Where do you fall on that? And especially because you proposed a budget without a grocery tax, do you think this is in a similar vein regressive?
Well, look, we've already put forth a proposed budget that challenges these corporations, the largest ones, to put more skin in the game. In fact, some of the feedback that we received was that our community safety surcharge, which is an important investment that corporations want us to make, that we did not situate our calculation around the technical definition of a small business. So we have even expressed and shown a willingness to shift the threshold for businesses that would be brought into this revenue stream. As far as the liquor lobby, I do understand their concern. I'll just put it point blank. As far as the intentions around it, you would have to get that understanding from those who are proposing it. But we do certainly understand their concern.
Okay, we've been listening in there to the mayor as he's been discussing primarily the ongoing budget battle. He says that they are working for a fair budget compromise and that he called all 50 alderpersons over the weekend to try to get to some type of resolution here. He talked a lot about the alternative proposal group. That's about 27 alders right now that are putting forth an alternative idea of what the budget needs to look like, and that they are now embracing more of the youth employment and gender-based violence aspects of his budget, and that they've also agreed to eliminate the garbage fee that was initially in their budget that the mayor was flat out against. But there's still this point of contention, which is the corporate head tax. He says with the alternative group that their budget as it stands would still have our city in a $700 million gap. Remember, it's $1.1 billion right now. It would still be $700 million, according to the mayor, if the alternative group got their wishes as of right now. So we talked about the need for structural revenue sources that need to be in place for long-term sustainability in the city, that he's working to protect working people, and that he believes the alternative group has some exaggerated projections, but they will be meeting again this afternoon so that they can once again try to hash things out in terms of a pathway forward. Now, the other thing that I'll note that he was asked about, that he gave an answer to, was this deadline for the CTA to turn over a new security plan for the trains, that coming off of the heels of the breaking news of that woman being burned on a plane, being set on fire on a train. And so the Federal Transit Administration set a deadline of today for them to have some information put forth to them. He said he believes that will happen today by the deadline. And of course, they're supposed to put it into implementation by, I believe, the 18th or 19th. So that's still an ongoing situation as well. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to bring in TMZ to talk a little bit more about Rob and Michelle Reiner and the status of that case at this point. All right, just a few moments before 1:40 here, and we're back with more on the shocking deaths of director and writer Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, their son now in custody accused of their deaths. I want to go ahead and bring in TMZ's Charlie Neff to talk a little bit more about where things stand and where we go from here. Charlie, when I spoke to you this morning for Good Day Chicago, it was rumored that the son was likely going to be arrested, but it hadn't happened yet. So talk to me about the window of time before that happened.
Yeah, so we now are learning what led up to these tragic murders of both Rob and his wife, Michelle Reiner. So as you know, Nick currently is sitting behind bars in connection with the tragic murders of his parents. So now what we are hearing is basically that Nick and his parents got into an argument the day before he went to their house and allegedly stabbed them to death. So what we're being told is Conan O'Brien had a holiday party on Saturday evening, and Rob attended with his wife Michelle and their son Nick. And I'm hearing that there was an argument that happened between both Rob and Nick. It's unclear exactly what the argument was about, but we're being told that people that were at the party overheard the commotion and saw that there was some kind of argument happening. I'm hearing too that Rob, right after him and his wife left the party, it's unclear if Nick left at that moment, but I was told yesterday evening Rob and Michelle's daughter, Romy, she arrived on the scene and was the one that discovered their bodies, which had stab wounds in the neck area.
Oh my goodness.
She called police, and she relayed to police that she believed her brother Nick was the one behind the murders, and did note the argument that had transpired the day before. Obviously, this is a developing story, and we'll keep you guys updated on everything we're hearing.
Oh my, there's so much there. You know, I'm thinking if I'm Conan O'Brien and then hearing like, oh wait, I remember the commotion, but no one would think that this was coming after it. Has he spoken out at all?
Nick has not spoken out yet. Like I said, he is currently behind bars in connection with the murders of his parents. But it is widely known that he has had a lot of issues over the years. He has struggled with substance abuse issues as well as mental health issues. And these things were noted from his sister Romy to police. She had noted both of the issues that he had been struggling with. And we know from people around Michelle and Rob that they had openly talked about with their friends trying to get their son help and all the things they have done for him over the years, and they didn't know what else to do. So it's unclear exactly where they stood. You know, recently we believe he was living with them, but you know, we don't know what the argument was about, and we are trying to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, no, I was wondering if Conan O'Brien had said anything. I know there's been a list of other people in Hollywood, even in politics, who have, you know, obviously expressed their condolences, but I was wondering if anyone had heard from Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, we have not seen Conan speak out yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he does by the end of the day. Obviously, all of this went down at his party. He was close with the Reiners, which is why they were there. It was a very private party. It wasn't something that was like a really big event. There were other celebrities there, which we are trying to confirm exactly who. And yeah, so I'm sure in due time we'll see something from Conan.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, and I kind of went over with our viewers here at the top of our broadcast, you know, just about the background of this family. They are steeped in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I mean, Rob Reiner has been around for forever. He's a total legend, and Hollywood is grieving today. Whether you know him from All in the Family or one of his amazing movies like The Princess Bride, which is absolutely perfection, and every generation loves that movie. You know, his wife too, they met on a movie When Harry Met Sally, and this is just a family that's just really embedded in Hollywood. They have so many famous friends. Billy Crystal was seen at the scene. He showed up to their home, as well as Larry David, who is another famous friend of theirs that showed up grieving, and everyone is just distraught. Even former President Barack Obama has spoken out as well about just how distraught he is and what an icon the Reiners were.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of struck me, even as we were taking a live look to, you know, right outside of their home, was, oh my goodness, we are back in a Brentwood neighborhood outside of Los Angeles for a stabbing death of a man and a woman. This is not far from the home where Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend were murdered years ago.
Yeah, Rockingham is right down the street, just a couple blocks away. You know, yeah, it definitely brings back Hollywood to a very, very dark time. And I think it's got everyone on edge right now. And, you know, I think probably the most tragic part about all of this is today we're talking about Rob Reiner. in regards to a very gruesome, horrible death. And instead of his accolades and everything that he does for the community, we should be honoring, his legacy. But instead, his name is now tied with just one of the most horrific murders in Hollywood history. And of course, you can't not think about what happened with O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson. And it's just a very sad time in Hollywood.
It certainly is. So what are some of the things as the day progresses that a TMZ will be working on in terms of this particular case? What are the questions that you all are going to be asking or the interviews that you're working on doing?
I don't think a motive is going to make anybody feel better, but we definitely want to know why Nick did this to his parents, if he did. Like I said, he has been arrested in connection with their murder, and his sister does believe he was behind this. But just why? Why did this happen? What was the argument about? And what is his attorney going to say? And just how do they go on? How does the family go on from this? There are other siblings that are alive, that are involved with this. How are we going to honor the Reiners? Is there going to be a memorial? Who's going to be there? Who's going to speak? And it's just the unfolding and the aftermath of these gruesome stabbings.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the weight on the daughter who found them, the gruesome nature of their deaths, but just finding your parents like that in general, and the ongoing, in your mind, wait, your brother, could have been the one behind this. There's just so much to it. So we'll be definitely looking for more information from you all as you get it. Thank you so much for your time today sharing with us.
Thank you so much, and we'll keep you updated.
Thank you. It's about 1:47, everyone. Just still hard to wrap your brains around all of that. A horrible, heinous act that took place there right outside of Los Angeles in the Brentwood neighborhood to a prolific director, Rob Reiner, and his wife, Michelle. So, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. It's about 1:50 right now. One of the aspects of the story that we were just talking about, the investigation into Rob Reiner and his wife and their murders over the weekend, has to do with something that so many families across America struggle with, and that is dealing with a child who has substance abuse issues. It is very common, more common than maybe most people think. But the DEA has a new campaign called Fentanyl Free America. And I want to go ahead and bring in Luis Agostini, who is a public information officer for the DEA Chicago Field Division, to talk about the campaign. And then just, again, this increasingly common experience of families having to deal with this. Thank you so much for your time.
Anita, thank you for having me. Great to see you again.
Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. And before I ask you about the new campaign, let's just talk about how pervasive this issue is, and again, for many families.
You know, when we talk about fentanyl, go back to maybe 6-7 years ago when we first issued our public safety alert on fentanyl and warning folks that fentanyl was going to be the most deadliest drug threat that our nation has seen. Fast forward a couple of years, and it's taken tens of thousands of lives. A lot from folks that didn't even know they were taking fentanyl. They may have thought they were taking a prescription pill that they got from a friend, or they thought they were taking, they were consuming recreational drugs like cocaine, not assuming or not knowing that there was a very deadly additive called fentanyl in it. So we lost tens and hundreds of thousands of lives over the past several years due to fentanyl, and that's impacted families both here in Cook County, throughout the state, and across the country as well. So with this campaign, Fentanyl Free America, we're doubling down our commitment to make sure that we're protecting our communities, we're preventing future fentanyl poisonings and overdoses, and we're supporting those that need the support, whether they're parents who lost loved ones, parents who want to prevent loss, and also key influencers like educators and teachers and other leaders in our communities.
Yeah, and so it's targeted enforcement effort right now that you all have going on. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Like, break down the numbers. They are pretty astounding.
So with Fentanyl Free America specifically, there was a targeted enforcement operation that 23 of our field divisions, including Chicago, conducted back in October. And we seized 8 kilograms of fentanyl powder, hundreds of counterfeit pills containing fentanyl, and not just fentanyl. We also seized a lot of cocaine and also firearms as well, because there is a nexus, a connection between street violence, gang violence, and drug trafficking. So really target enforcement effort. But then looking back at 2025 overall, throughout the entire Chicago Field Division, we've seized almost 1,000 pounds of fentanyl powder, 1.6 million pills of counterfeit pills that contained fentanyl. And right now, 3 out of those 10 pills have enough fentanyl to be potentially dangerous. So we're just seeing we're making progress on the seizure front, on the enforcement front, and we're also seeing, speaking of numbers, we are seeing dramatic drops in fentanyl-related poisonings and deaths. We were losing, I believe it was in 2023 where we crossed 2,000 for the first time in opioid overdose deaths in Cook County. Very stark number. And 2024, I believe it's just under 1,200. So a very dramatic drop, but that's still nearly 1,200 people in our communities that are being killed, that are dying because of fentanyl. So that's why when you hear Fentanyl Free America, yes, it's a very aspirational tagline, but it's something that we are really trying to achieve.
Yeah, and what do you attribute the drop in? Is it Narcan's availability, or is it efforts like this? I'm sure it's, in part a combination.
Absolutely a combination. Narcan was a game changer. It literally is bringing folks back to life and giving them second, third chances at toward changing their trajectory and hopefully steering them toward resources and recovery so they can live longer lives. It's on the enforcement front. It's a long game between our drug investigations and the cartels and the drug trafficking organizations in our communities that are peddling and trafficking fentanyl and other illicit substances. So definitely it's a combination. Also public health, big shout out to public health for the work they've done. And I believe it's just increased awareness overall. Any conversation that we're having now, whether it's in entertainment, sports, schools, education, public safety, fentanyl is weaving its way into these topics. I think, as we mentioned before, with substance abuse and drug use, misuse, including fentanyl, fentanyl really is touching every aspect of our lives. And I think we're seeing more of that. And I think we're more acutely aware of fentanyl, and we're starting to have a lot more of these conversations.
Yeah. Okay. So I see first seizure of carfentanil in pill form in the Chicago Field Division occurred in late 2024. Can you explain what that is? And is it, I don't want to have a pessimistic view, but it does seem like whenever we kind of get a hold of one thing, something else sprouts up. I think back to in my youth, and you were hearing about like crack cocaine in neighborhoods, and now you get to this generation, and fentanyl is really what, we have these conversations about.
So carfentanil, it's a fentanyl analog. It's a fentanyl related substance. So with fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It's not like heroin, where it comes, it's a derivative of a plant, and that you can harvest and yield and make that way. Really, it's all chemical. It's a synthetic opioid. Carfentanil is a way stronger version of, put in the simplest terms, way stronger version of fentanyl. You change a couple of the components of the chemistry to make something stronger that really is used by veterinarians. That's supposed to be used on larger animals. That's now working its way into the drug supply. The reason that's happening is because drug cartels and drug trafficking organizations, they're thinking from a business profit standpoint, how can they make more money with cheaper expenses and using cheaper capital? So they're using any way possible, whether it's carfentanil and other things like medetomidine or xylazine we've heard about. They're using this as filler to increase their profit margin and create new customer supplies.
It is so scary. How quickly can these drugs change a life?
Seconds, because again, if you're a young adult or a teen, and especially right now, November, December, we're talking about midterms and maybe finals for college students, and they're cramming, doing cramming study sessions. They might be seeking an Adderall, right, for that little edge to study and focus, and they think they're getting an Adderall. We're now seeing meth. We're seeing counterfeit Adderall pills that don't have any components of Adderall but meth. So things like that are changing families' lives, where we could lose our sons and daughters and loved ones because they think they're taking a pill. They have no intention of taking an illicit drug like fentanyl or meth or cocaine, but we're now seeing these things that being made into what they think looks like a safe pill, but really isn't. And that's why one of our key messages is always the only pill or medicine you should take is one that your doctor prescribed to you and that you got from an actual real registered pharmacy.
Yeah,
At this point, you have to assume that if it didn't come from either one of those, you take it, you're gambling with your life.
I can't remember the name of the family. You described their situation to a T of their son who was taken from them. Say that one more time.
The Jeske family?
Maybe that was the name. Yeah. And they have done such good work in trying to alert people to those types of situations. Their son just was trying to study for his exams, thought he was taking Adderall to stay awake, alert, and it, in fact, it was laced with this. How often is it that people do think they're taking one thing and it's something totally different, especially nowadays?
Pretty often. I think with our medical examiners and coroners, I'm not sure that they have it when they do their toxicologies. I'm not sure that they're able to, or that we've seen that they've dissected down, they've drilled down to the form or the form of the pill. But what we're seeing is that a couple of years ago, I believe it was just in 2023, 7 out of 10 pills that the DEA seized and analyzed, 7 out of 10 pills that contain fentanyl had at least 2 milligrams, which is enough to cause a fatal dose. That's dropped now to about 29%. So that's about 3 in 10 pills. So it's kind of, getting in the right direction, but it's still very, very, deadly and dangerous situation that we're seeing, that a pill can kill you.
Yeah.
A pill that you did not take or get from a doctor or pharmacy can kill you.
Are you seeing an average age or any type of like demographics in terms of fentanyl use and deaths?
What we have seen is that fentanyl was the biggest cause of deaths for 18 to 45-year-olds
Wow.
across the country. So those are our kids. That's our future leaders, right? That's a future elected representative.
Mhm. Think we're having some issues with his connection there. But again, stark numbers that we are hearing about fentanyl use, fentanyl deaths. I see we have you back now. Luis, go over that information again. You said 18 to 45 years old.
Right. So fentanyl, synthetic opioids like fentanyl, they are the biggest driver of U.S. deaths for ages 18 to 45 years old. So what I was trying to iterate was that think about that demographic, and those are our future leaders. Future doctors and nurses and teachers and lawyers, elected officials. We're losing our nation's future to fentanyl.
It is just so sad. What do you do if you suspect that someone is using these drugs?
So DEA definitely, we advocate for, we support treatment and recovery, medication assisted treatment. So on our DEA.gov, we definitely have sections that list all the resources available. So if you feel like someone, in your network, in your family, workplace, is suffering from substance abuse, there are resources available. Public health departments at the county level, the city level, they definitely have resources that you can guide them to. But on our website, dea.gov/fentanyl free, we have a host of resources there that can help initiate and guide conversations with your loved ones. So hopefully they don't even get to a place that they'll need life-saving support. But for those that are suffering, there are a lot of resources available at the public health level, federal support to ensure that we don't lose any more lives to fentanyl.
Yeah. Year to date, your field division has seized 864 pounds of fentanyl powder throughout this field division in 2025. 1.6 million counterfeit pills laced with fentanyl seized in this area as well. What more do you think needs to be done?
More. Really, again, the Fentanyl Free America tagline, some folks might think, is that possible? That's our goal. That is a realistic goal to ensure that we keep at this until we're no longer needed, until we really are a fentanyl-free America. I mean, our mission remains steadfast on ensuring that we eliminate that illicit fentanyl supply, and that we hold all the drug traffickers accountable. So we're just going to keep at it. That was a huge jump. I believe that was about a 67% increase from what we seized last year. And then from the pill front, that was about 33% more than what we seized. Last year, we seized about 1.2 million pills containing fentanyl throughout the Chicago Field Division, which includes northern and central Illinois, all of Wisconsin, all of Indiana. So really, I mean, is there a hard number? We're going to keep at it until we see that there are really no more Chicagoans, no more Illinois residents, no more Americans that are losing loved ones to fentanyl.
Yeah, we are, of course, grateful for you all's work, but also concerned about the need for the increased effort as well, but grateful that you all are doing the work to save more lives, quite honestly. Louise Agostini, Public Information Officer for the DEA Chicago Field Division. We appreciate you as always. Good to see you.
Thank you, Nita. You too. Take care.
Happy holidays. 2:03 right now. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and have a conversation regarding that anti-Semitic attack that took place in Australia over the weekend that still has, it's giving people chills. Congressman Brad Schneider is going to join us right after this. We're back at 2:06 right now, and we are giving you a live picture to a growing memorial outside of the place where 15 people lost their lives. That beach in Australia, Bonsai Beach, that was just the site of a horrific massacre. 2 gunmen that came into that area, father-son duo that came into that area with ill intentions that took and changed so many lives. An anti-Semitic attack, as this was just the start of Hanukkah, and people were celebrating a beautiful moment there on the beach when everything changed. There is a bipartisan statement that was released. It really all 25 Jewish House members are part of this. I'll read parts of it to you. It says, "We stand in solidarity with the Australian Jewish Committee and together extend our condolences to the family and friends of the people murdered and are praying for the complete recovery of the dozens wounded and the entire Jewish community feeling besieged. Anti-Semitism is a cancer that eats at the core of society, whether in Australia, the United States, or anywhere it is allowed to take root and grow." Want to bring in one of the representatives who was listed on this from Illinois, Congressman Brad Schneider. Thank you so much for your time. I believe you're muted right now. Let's try to unmute you. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Nope, it's okay. Thank you so much for your time. We know you are very busy. Tell me a little bit first and foremost about your reaction to hearing the news about what took place there on Bonsai Beach.
Well, I woke up to the news yesterday morning, and this was on the heels of Saturday night, the news of the shooting in Brown, and it was devastating. And the attack on Bondi Beach in Australia, it was specifically targeting the Jewish community. It was a celebration of Hanukkah. I've been to that beach. I've celebrated the Sabbath with the community there. I don't know it well, but I know it, and I know how important their traditions are, how closely knit they are. And there were hundreds of people gathered together to celebrate the Festival of Lights, a holiday that recognizes religious freedom and the miracle of the candles, the oil lasting 8 nights. And we didn't know the facts when we first heard about it, just that there were many people killed, more were wounded, and it looked to be an attack that specifically targeted the Jewish community. We now know it's a father and a son who appear to have loyalty to, if not connections with, ISIS, and that they specifically went after these people because they were Jews. And it's something we're seeing around the world and should give everyone pause and concern.
There are several different aspects of this that I want to talk to you about. But first, do you know what brings people to that specific beach? Like, why Bonsai Beach?
So it's a beautiful beach. Sydney is on the water. The iconic Opera House is famous, but there's a lot of beautiful places around there. I was there. It was more than 30 years ago when I happened to be there on business, spent a weekend, and was invited to spend the Sabbath with a family who lives in Bondi. And they go and they go to the beach because on the Sabbath, those who are observant don't drive. They can walk to the beach. And this was the Hanukkah holiday. It's just a lot of people, families come together with their children, with grandparents. And there's a Holocaust survivor, someone who survived the Holocaust, emigrated to Australia after the war, only to be murdered by someone with genocidal intent on the beach celebrating Hanukkah. It's just tragic.
It really is, and it's horrible to hear that. When you talk about rising anti-Semitism throughout the world, obviously this will be a part of that conversation. What are the new concerns that you have given this event regarding a rise in anti-Semitism?
Great question. I mean, the concerns preceded the event, and the Australian community, the Jewish community, had been raising the clarion call, calling on the government to address the growing number of anti-Semitic incidents in Australia. And we're seeing incidents here in the United States and in Europe. But the Australian government turned a blind eye to it. And the first response of the government was not even to acknowledge that this was an attack on the Jewish community. There's no question it was a holiday celebration, a Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, that these people were targeted specifically because they were Jews. And we're seeing the rhetoric of the United States, the fact that Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson can spew some of the most disgusting anti-Semitic rhetoric and not be condemned by everybody for that. And it's not just Tucker Carlson on the right, you see it with folks on the left. We need to call out anti-Semitism, bigotry, hatred in all of its forms, anywhere it raises its ugly head. And we can't tolerate it because it is like a weed. Once it takes root, it will expand, it will grow, and it will consume everyone and everything in its path.
Yeah. So they are discussing in Australia tougher, stricter gun laws there as a result of what's taken place. It's not lost on me that, when we're talking about, a Holocaust survivor that then meets their death at the hands of a mass shooting in Australia. But the flip side, since you mentioned Brown, is that there were students there who were there for that mass shooting who had survived a mass shooting in their past as well. What are your thoughts on their response now to what's taken place there and what needs to happen here in our country as well?
Look, I represent Highland Park. I live in Highland Park. We had a horrific mass shooting 3 years ago that still is a trauma within our community. It will be a trauma within our community forever. And we see a mass shooting in the United States more than once a day. And every community affected by it is affected permanently. And it's just a matter of time, most likely, before every community suffers such a tragedy. And it's needless that we have these tragedies. We can take common sense steps respecting the Second Amendment. No one's talking about taking guns away from lawful citizens, people who are, whether they're going hunting or sports shooting, that's not the issue. It's folks who are, whether they're common criminals or gang members or people seeking to do terrorist acts, universal background checks, supported by more than 90% of the American people. Universal background checks would help keep guns away from people who shouldn't have guns. There are things we can do that will reduce violence. At the same time, Australia has some of the strictest gun laws in the world. But when you have people who are motivated by hate, who are inspired by nihilistic ideologies, they will find a way to commit these attacks. And what's been reported is that the father had acquired guns for hunting legally. We need to make sure that we're watching and protecting communities, whether it's the Jewish community, the Muslim community, people in school, wherever the case may be. Everyone in this country should be able to pray freely without fear, to go to school and learn without concern of having that a shooter's going to enter the school or even go to the park. And that's what we're working to try to do in Congress, and I wish we could do more.
When you speak about the work moving forward, address the issue of the ISIS connections, that we're seeing more people who may have an internet connection that get radicalized and take out these acts.
So I'll talk more generally. You mentioned the internet, and people are online and going into these chat rooms and other conversations where hate is just being spewed without any concern or without any controls. And it's young people who aren't learning the lessons, aren't developing the critical thinking skills, developing the moral compass that directs them in a path. And it's young people who are being isolated to such an extent that they're feeling, whether it is isolated from the broader community or even worse, feeling antagonized by the community and seeking out and seeking retribution. We need to do better. So there's things we can do to try to better manage how people are using social media, how they're on the internet and getting brought into these groups. But we also need to be working to teach our kids to think critically, to think for themselves, working to strengthen our communities. I'd much rather kids be spending time outside playing with other people face to face than spending so much time alone in their rooms on their devices and losing that social interaction that's so important for a healthy society.
When speaking with communities who feel they have been targeted by certain actions, and I'm speaking maybe even of the immigrant community here, that feels they have been targeted by actions that have taken place over the last several months, and you speak about maybe the holidays and certain traditions and keeping them because that joy, that celebration is still an act of, it is activism in some sense. Talk about continuing on with the celebration of Hanukkah this year in spite of what has happened.
Yeah, so last night was the first night of Hanukkah, and we adjusted our plans a little bit. I wanted to go to a public community celebration. The event in Australia was an event organized by Chabad, which is a group within the Jewish community. The Chabad in our area was having a number of Hanukkah celebrations. I attended one in Winnetka just to show my solidarity with the community. From there, we went and had a family celebration. Hanukkah is a family holiday. It's when parents, grandparents, grandchildren all come together. They light the candles, they sing songs, they talk about the miracle. And the miracle is, 165 years before Christ, the Maccabees defeated the Assyrians and recaptured Jerusalem, rededicated the temple. There was only enough oil, a tiny bit of oil that would barely last a single day, lasted 8 nights until new oil could be manufactured. And it's that history and the miracle of faith that every religious tradition celebrates that in their own way, whether it is the miracle of Christmas or celebrating Diwali and lights. And every community across our nation has these traditions that bring people together, bring families and community united into one celebration and strengthens those communities, and I think strengthens our country. So we need to celebrate the diversity of our country, ensure that people can pray and follow their faith without fear, and also at the same time work to make sure that we are united as one nation as well.
And what about elevated security for many of these events over the next several days, with so many people that do fear for their safety in participating in a public way?
Yeah, this is the tragedy. Every time we have a gathering, whether it's in a synagogue, and synagogues have had elevated security for years. I remember as a child going to high holiday services and there'd be security guards outside because of fear of attacks, terrorist attacks. But it's now not just the Jewish community, it's almost every faith community is having to post security outside their gatherings. And you're seeing it in schools and you're seeing it in public spaces. It's a real tragedy. I think the more we can strengthen security, build security, the better we'll be as a nation. And in the meantime, Congress should be working to provide resources to local communities, to nonprofits, to make sure they can keep their citizens, their members of their organizations safe and secure.
Thank you so much for your time. My best to you during your celebrations this week.
Thank you. Have a happy holidays. Wishing everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and a Happy New Year.
You take care. It's 2:20, everyone, and the president is now participating in a presentation that's going on at the Oval Office. We're going to go to live here. It is a Mexican Border Defense Medal presentation. Let's listen in.
The last 8 months, none. In a few moments, we'll officially recognize their service by awarding them the Mexican Border Defense Medal, which is a big deal. We're joined for this occasion by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, Commander of U.S. Northern Command, General Gregory Gio, Commander of the Southern Border Task Force, Major General Scott Noman, Command Sergeant Major Brett Johnson of the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division, Administrator of the Drug Enforcement Agency, Terry Cole, and many other members of our administration who have done an incredible job on the border. You know, people forget now that the border has been secure for actually 7 months, think of it, more. And they don't mention the border anymore. Nobody talks about the border. They talk about affordability, and we're the ones that are bringing the prices down. We were given the worst inflation in our country's history, and we're bringing the prices down. But the affordability is on the Democrats because they have made it unaffordable to be in this country, but we're bringing those prices down, and they're coming down quickly. Energy is coming way down, and if you look, gasoline prices are hitting in many locations $1.99 a gallon. Nobody thought they'd see that. There were $4, $5, and $6 a gallon under Biden. In the 4 years before I took office, our southern border was surrendered to criminals, drug cartels, human traffickers, and child smugglers. Our entire southwest border on the Mexican side is under the physical control of cartels that are among the most violent entities nobody's ever seen anywhere on the planet, the most violent people on the planet. Remember when the Democrats and others, the radical left, used to say that the people they're allowing into our country, immigrants, are nice people. They're not violent like our people. Well, they make our people look like babies. These are some of the most violent criminals anywhere on earth from many countries, not just Venezuela. Venezuela emptied their jails into our country, but others have also. The Congo has. So many other countries have. And we don't put up with it. I have to say the drugs coming in by sea are down 94%. And we're trying to figure out who the other 6% are. But they're down 94%, and we're going to start hitting them on land, which is a lot easier to do, frankly. But these are a direct military threat to the United States of America. They're trying to drug out our country. And you could look throughout history. Look at China when they were loaded up with drugs. They were suffering greatly, and others were able to take them over. And other countries also. They're trying to drug out our country, and we're reversing it rapidly, actually. But with the help of our great service members, we've stopped the invasion in its tracks, and we're dismantling the cartels very rapidly. And they are being declared enemies of the United States of America. They have been so declared, legally declared. More than 25,000 warriors have served in this historic operation. It is indeed an incredible and historic operation. And we've never done anything so effectively, and we've had a lot of victories. They've spent night and day enduring scorching hot and bitter cold, and they've given up their holidays and their weekends working with the officers of Customs and Border Protection. Our armed forces have already conducted nearly 13,000 patrols along the border, and today we give these great warriors the recognition that they have earned, and they have really earned it. The military component of our border security efforts is just the beginning. We're also designating the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a big deal from a legal standpoint and military standpoint. We've ended catch and release, and we endured and ensured that anyone who sets foot across our border illegally is intercepted, arrested, and immediately deported, or if they're really bad, they're put into prison because we don't want to ever take a chance if they come back. As a result, illegal border crossings have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded in the history of our country. Think of that. The history of our country. You can all be very proud. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States of America. We inherited the worst border in the history of our country, one of the worst borders, I would say, in the world. I can't imagine any border in the world being worse when they allowed 25 million people to come in. And again, many of these people are gang members and from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums. And some of the worst people on earth they allowed to come into our country. We're getting a lot of them out. We've made a big dent. And the self-deportation is something nobody talks about, but literally millions of people are self-deporting because they don't want to be captured. Once they're captured, they don't have the chance to self-deport. They never have the chance to come back into our country. We inherited that border from an incompetent administration and turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. So we took the worst border in the history of our country, and in a period of 2 months, we turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. During this time, we've also achieved a 50% drop in the amount of fentanyl coming across the border, and China's working with us very closely on bringing down the number and the amount of fentanyl that's being shipped. You know, fentanyl is very bad when you mix it with certain ingredients, but it also is very important for medicine, for anesthesias, various other things. I want people to understand that. It's not made necessarily for bad. When it's mixed with certain things, it becomes bad. And that's what's taking place in Mexico. And we've got it down to a much lower number, not satisfactory, but it will be satisfactory soon. In May, we executed the largest fentanyl bust in the history of the U.S., seizing 3 million fentanyl pills all at one time. Think of that, 3 million pills. It's amounted to billions of dollars worth of drugs. And last month, we seized another 1.7 million fentanyl pills in the state of Colorado, the poorly run state of Colorado, with a governor who's incompetent. And frankly, with a governor that won't allow our wonderful Tina to come out of a jail, in a high-intensity jail, because she caught people cheating on an election, and they said she was cheating. She wasn't cheating. She went over, she looked at one of the election scams going on, and because she did that, they put her in jail for 9 years. The governor of Colorado is a weak and pathetic man who was run by Tren de Aragua, the criminals from Venezuela, took over sections of Colorado, and he was afraid to do anything. But he puts Tina in jail for 9 years because she caught people cheating. And when she walked over and got involved in it, they said she was cheating. She wasn't cheating. She caught people cheating on the election, 2020, along with a lot of other people that cheated on that election. You'll see that coming out more and more. But there's no doubt that America's adversaries are trafficking fentanyl into the United States, in part because they want to kill Americans. If this were a war, that would be one of the worst wars. I believe they killed, over the last 5 or 6 years, per year, 200 to 300,000 people. You hear about 100,000, which is a lot of people, but the number's much higher than that. That's been proven. And they've destroyed a lot of families. Because when they lose a child, or even if their child is heavily addicted, you lose that family. The family will never be the same. That's why today I'm taking one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. But before I sign the fentanyl order, we will pin these great service members with their medals. And here today are the first 13 warriors who will receive the Mexican Border Defense Medal, which is a big deal. First, I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth and Chairman Kane to say a few words. I'd like to have Tom Homan come up, please, if you would, say a few words. And I want to thank all of the people, Pam and everybody, Stephen Miller, great Stephen Miller, what a job he's doing, for being here. Thank you both. Appreciate it very much. We have so many great people here. But I do want to ask Tom to say a few words also. So, Pete, why don't you start it off, please? Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you. I would echo what you said. This has been a team effort from the beginning. Tom Homan, Terry Cole, Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, Christy Nome, Customs and Border Patrol, Protection. It has been one team, one mission to get 100% operational control of the southern border. You want to talk about America First, peace through strength and common sense? It all manifests in one basic phrase down there. Border security is national security. And we had the task of 100% control, and because of these men and women back here, we've achieved that. Nobody is crossing the southern border. And I want to give a big shout out to our Northern Command, General Guillot. From day one, our department didn't look at the border this way before you. Joe Biden allowed an invasion of this country tens of millions of people, drugs, gangs, violence. And the military jumped to it on day one with our partners. Ultimately, it was incredible Americans. There's 13 up here with us today. They all represent about 2,000 people who've served at the border so far. So 25,000 Americans qualify for this Mexican National Defense Border medal that we're announcing today. And what's cool about this medal, it was actually first given out in 1918. So we're reviving an old medal that existed, was given to men and women who defended the southern border. We found out about it. We used the exact same foundry with the exact same imagery, same color, same medal, same everything. So our men and women will be wearing that very same medal as Americans 100 years before who were asked to defend the sovereignty of our country. President Trump was elected to do that. You have done that, Mr. President. We're proud of this mission. We're proud to defend the American people. And pinning these medals on is an example of how important it is to us. So thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, I want to echo your thanks and gratitude for the Joint Force. I also want to highlight General Gio, General Nauman, and Command Sergeant Major Johnson, but also leaders at every level that came together, not just in our joint force, but in the interagency. And I want to specifically highlight our Border Patrol teammates and our Office of Air and Marine teammates, who, when I went down to the southern border and visited, were right there next to the joint force. I also want to thank not just these 13 individuals, but the joint force that was also down there and your families who poured in to make this deployment possible on the southern border. And of course, this time of the year, I'm always thinking about our currently deployed forces who are out there around the world doing our nation's business, and of course our fallen and their families who show us what courage and tenacity really are as they move forward after the loss of a service member. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Please.
You know, it's always an honor for me to be in the Oval Office with the greatest president of my lifetime. Yes, I said it, and I meant it. You know, I just got home last night. I toured the border in California, Arizona, and Texas. I did it in a four-wheel drive. I did it on the river. I did it from the air. Hundreds upon hundreds of miles of border. I didn't see one illegal alien. Not a single one. I've done this since 1984. I worked for 6 different presidents. No one's done more than President Trump. What he has done is gave us the most secure border in the history of this nation. Hard to stop. I went to hundreds of miles of border and didn't see one illegal alien. Incredible, considering the Biden administration, we had 10, 12,000 a day, most released in the United States. I'm proud to be with these patriots behind me. I'm already proud to be in the Oval Office of the President, but being with these heroes, I met some of these soldiers down on the border. And actually, a shout out to Fort Drum, New York. We got some 10th Mountain Division here, so Elise Stefanik, Claudia Tennant, we all love Fort Drum and the 10th Mountain. So look, this is a game changer. I want to make something perfectly clear, because we get attacked all the time being inhumane. The Biden administration is much more humane. It's a bunch of crap. Because there's been studies done that 31% of women that make that journey through the cartels get sexually assaulted. They get raped. And not just the women, children too. I've done numerous investigations in that. Sex trafficking was at historic highs with that open border. Fentanyl, historic highs that killed 250,000 Americans. No inspector terrorists that came across the border. Record, historic. What happened under the Biden administration was the most inhumane thing I've seen in my lifetime. Now that the border is 96% decline, 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this country every day? How many known suspected terrorists aren't just walking across that border? President Trump and this administration is saving thousands of lives every month. Hard stop. That's just a stone cold fact. I'm just proud to be a part of this. I work with Steve Miller every day. Steve Miller is one of the most brilliant people I've met in my entire life. President Trump.
We've been listening in there to this presentation of the Mexican Border Defense Medal. 13 of our nation's military men and women who will receive this medal today in recognition of the military component of Border Patrol. This medal was first given in 1918, now being revived here as a result of what they are calling a historic operation. 13,000 patrols along the border thus far. And really keying in on foreign terrorist organizations that they are now saying are drug cartels, labeling drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And going back to our earlier conversation with the DEA specifically about fentanyl here, they said there's been a 50% drop in fentanyl coming across the border, that in May they had their largest fentanyl bust ever, and that for the adversaries who are trafficking, they talked about the fact that they're working to stop and protect Americans with an executive order. The president said now that he is formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. He is doing an executive order today during that presentation to formally classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. War Secretary Pete Hegseth there saying one team, one mission on all of this, that border security is national security, and the border czar was speaking there too, as they still continue to honor those who are continuing to be deployed down at the border and throughout the world. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to have a discussion coming up after it about the possibility, just walk with us here, maybe drive with us in your head, about driverless cabs in Illinois. Are you ready? We're going to talk with Representative Brad Stevens about it when we come back. Welcome back, everyone. Just about 2:40 right now. Are you ready for driverless cabs in and around Chicago? I mean, it makes me think of the Jetsons, but it is a conversation that needs to be had. It's already happening, and so we want to have it here on Chicago Live today with the mayor of Rosemont, Brad Stevens. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. This is an exciting opportunity that we think would play very well into our convention traffic here in our community in Rosemont, and I do double duty as a state rep as well. So this past spring, I introduced a bill, I believe it's House Bill 2264, that would allow for a pilot program for autonomous vehicles.
Tell me how you ended up as a part of this.
Well, I had heard some talk about it. We have had several of our colleagues in the legislature have gone out and actually ridden in these vehicles out in Arizona and around the country. There's several cities around the country where this is already in play. And right now, though, unfortunately, it's illegal in Illinois. And I had several conversations with the folks at Waymo. And I said, boy, this could be something that could be somewhat of a tool in this 2.5 square miles of the village of Rosemont and shuttling our conventioneers and our business travelers around the community and even outside. You know, we tried to maybe tailor this to where it could be inclusive of O'Hare Airport so they can get a ride to the airport. And I think that it's a great opportunity for us.
When you say a great opportunity, okay, I hear the positives. Let's talk about some of the pushback here. The Illinois Trial Lawyers Association has some concerns about potential liability issues. Like what if there is an accident?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we took a shell bill towards the end of spring session last May or maybe even April, and decided to put the language in there. It's still got some loose ends, and we wanted to see who and where the opposition was going to come from so we can work with them on creating a bill that addresses all of those concerns. You know, as the mayor of this community here that relies heavily on the conventioneer and the business traveler, we want to make sure that this thing works and that it's somewhat seamless and that there are little to no issues with it. Otherwise, we're not interested. So we needed to flush out those concerns. The folks from ABATE had some issues as well. And we're going to work with them on creating a bill that will pass both the House and the Senate, and hopefully send to the governor. And if we can't get those issues resolved, then I guess we're going to have a stalemate. But we're trying to work this out ahead of time rather than having long-standing debate to get it passed.
ABATE's issue was about safety and transparency when it comes to Waymos. Given like the heavy traffic in Chicago or around the airport or construction zones that come up from time to time, well, there's winter and construction season, of course, around here, and then even like aggressive drivers. How has Waymo addressed like how an autonomous vehicle would handle all of that?
So personally, myself, I have not ridden in one of these vehicles, and I plan to do that in the coming months. And those are all questions that will have to be answered. How do you deal with heavy traffic situations? Some of the concerns that the folks from ABATE had dealt with just that. So my goal is to go to a heavily populated area, maybe San Francisco, when there are a lot of events going on out there, and see how these vehicles respond to traffic and make sure that this is seamless. I know that in Texas, Waymo actually partners up with Uber, and you can actually, on the app, decide whether you want an autonomous or a vehicle with a driver. So I think this works in other populations. I believe they're close to getting it approved in New York, which would be a real good case study in making sure that they can deal with the traffic. But we're just looking for a small pilot area here, and hopefully if it is successful here in Rosemont, then it can expand to the rest of the state. My bill also included parts of Sangamon County, so Springfield, so the legislators can potentially actually get in these vehicles and take a ride around Springfield to and from the Capitol and to see how they work if we're looking to potentially expand this statewide.
And I think about what you were speaking of in terms of the fact that Uber has partnered with them in some areas, and it just gives a whole new meaning to like the silent ride that you try to choose with Uber, and you're like, oh, is the person going to actually talk while you're in there? There's no driver. But if something happens, how would even, and maybe you know this from other areas where they're using this, how would police investigate if there's no driver?
Well, I believe that there's components within these vehicles that really record all of the actions. From my understanding, they have to come in when they get approved in a location. There's boundaries within that location, and the company has to go and map all that, and that takes several months to map all the streets. So in case there are issues where there's heavy traffic, that they can be rerouted to a less populated area. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that I have, but again, we wanted to put this out there to see if there are more questions than I may have, or that the Waymo folks have answers to, that we want to just make sure that this is a seamless bill that people can put their hands around, understand it, and then we can see it in action. And again, if the pilot program is implemented and there are too many concerns, then I won't be looking to expand this throughout the state of Illinois, and we'd probably put an end to the pilot program. But if this does work the way that it's worked throughout the United States in the locations that have approved it, I think that this is a good solution for transportation for folks from point A to point B.
Yeah. In Waymo, it's worth noting, says its vehicles are safer by many metrics than vehicles driven by humans. More than 1,100 people die as a result of traffic crashes in Illinois, or died as a result of traffic crashes in Illinois last year. So if we think about it, an autonomous vehicle couldn't have a drunk driver in it. Couldn't have a distracted driver.
Couldn't have a driver that was texting while driving.
There is that. There is that side of it.
And they're all electric vehicles. When the charge gets below 25%, it automatically tells that vehicle to go back to the garage, get charged up. They clean it, and then they send it back out on the road.
Have you heard from the taxi drivers or rideshare workers? They have pretty active unions, and I would wonder their thoughts on something like this kind of encroaching on their territory.
Well, I do understand that there is competition with this. I know that the Teamsters, I believe, represent some of the Uber drivers as well, the rideshare drivers, and we've had some conversations with them as well. We want to listen to everybody and see what their concerns are. There are some people that won't take a cab because they don't want to deal with the driver. This just provides an opportunity for an option.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that have come up in terms of other cities that make you think like, okay, I'm a little concerned about this, or this is another reason why I'm behind this?
Well, I think that there's got to be a fact-finding mission that happens with myself and some of the other key legislators, the lobbying groups that are for this, and maybe even invite the folks from the trial lawyers and ABATE and anybody else, that we can do this collectively. Again, I'm not one that, wants to introduce a bill that we've got to strong arm and hammer people to get votes. I want something that's going to be widely accepted, that it's an easy vote when it gets to the floor, and that things are hammered out and issues are taken care of ahead of time. And again, go through a process that is fair and seamless.
How far off do you think we are from seeing the pilot program here in our area?
It's hard to say. I'm not going to give up on this bill, and if we get through this legislative session, I'll reintroduce it. But I think that we're seeing more and more cities expanding to this type of transportation. And I think that Illinois wants to be on the cutting edge as opposed to being on okay, everybody else is doing it, why don't we? There's, like I said, there's several legislators have gone and used this mode of transportation in other cities, and I really haven't heard much of an issue. So I think we just need to be very slow and methodical in getting through the process and getting a bill to fruition.
Okay, so walk me through what happens next. Where are we with things? What happens next?
So we go back to legislative session, a little bit in January, a little bit more in February, and then March, April, May are the longer days and longer weeks. And we're going to, again, do a fact-finding mission first, and then we'll sit down with each one of those groups that has concerns. I received an email the other day from a coalition of advocates for blind folks that really would love to have this opportunity to utilize this. They made inference in the email that in San Francisco they made special provisions to make sure that it was inclusive. So there's going to be pros and cons. We know that. We're going to utilize the folks that are in favor of the transportation, and we're going to work with those that have opposition.
Yeah. I guess I would love to just know your thoughts on even being at this point of having this discussion.
I'm old school. I like to have my car wherever I go, but originally I said, there's no way I'd get in one of those. But, the more that you see it, it's just like anything else. The more it becomes accessible and people are utilizing it. It'll be interesting to know the angst that I go through when I finally get in one of these. It'll be a very different experience. And my leader in the House on the Republican side, Leader Tony McCombie, went out and just got in one of these and just drove around in Arizona. And she said it was pretty amazing. So I'm interested in going down that road and seeing how these things operate and work. And we'll see what we can bring back. And again, hopefully get this thing done.
How long would a pilot program be?
It all depends on how receptive the legislature is. I think that it's got to be at least 1 year, maybe 2 or 3, just to work out all of the kinks that may come up. And I think that we've got to still work on what is the area that's going to be geofenced to allow these vehicles to travel within. If you call for one that's outside that area, it tells you that you're outside the area, the service area. So it's a little bit of Jetsons, but I'm really excited about the possibility.
All right, thank you. That's interesting. And listen, once you have ridden in one, we're going to need that report too. I want to know how you feel after you've ridden in one yourself.
Well, I absolutely will be happy to report back.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it is worth noting here, the Waymo is owned by a Google parent company, Alphabet Inc. They currently operate in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Austin, and Atlanta. They have announced plans to expand to more than 20 other cities worldwide, including St. Louis, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Miami. So the jury is still out as to whether Illinois will adopt it, and specifically for Representative Stevens, the mayor of Rosemont, whether it will end up coming to Rosemont around O'Hare Airport or the greater Chicagoland area. Will be very interesting to see. And we definitely will have more conversations about this as it possibly becomes more of a reality. We'll see where things go from here. All right, it is 2:55 right now. Believe that the president is taking some questions there in the Oval Office where they were doing that medal presentation. We're going to listen into a bit of this.
Hezbollah in Lebanon has been a problem. We'll see what happens there. But there is legitimate large-scale peace in the Middle East. And if there weren't, we wouldn't have been able to make all of those deals that we've made with the various countries, they would have never been able to do that if, for instance, if Iran, if we didn't, with that B-2 bomber right there on the desk, if we didn't, of which we just ordered a lot more of the newer version, totally stealth. They could not see it. They knew it was coming. They had no idea where it was. It was pretty amazing, actually. Every bomb hit its mark perfectly, despite CNN trying to say differently. They didn't know. They just, hoped. They hoped that we didn't, but it turned out that they did. Atomic Energy Commission confirmed it. So did Iran confirm it. They got knocked to hell. But if we didn't knock out their nuclear capability, we would have never had peace in the Middle East, because you would have had a dark cloud hanging over Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and all the other countries, and they would have never, ever been able to sign an agreement. Yeah, please.
How soon do you expect that international stabilization force to be up and running in Gaza?
I think that it's, in a form, it's already running. In a very strong form, it's already. But it'll get stronger and stronger, and more countries are coming into it. They're already in. But they'll send any number of troops that I ask them to send. They want to see peace. We have more than 59 countries. We have many countries that aren't even in the Middle East, but they're fairly close to the Middle East. They want to be involved. So it's been pretty amazing.
Mr. President, this week a man named Keone Rodriguez is going to federal prison for creating crypto privacy software. The case was started under the Biden administration, but your DOJ kept it going and secured the conviction. A lot of people in crypto are saying that this man should be pardoned. Are you familiar with the case at all, or would you be interested?
I've heard about it. I'll look at it. Why, you think he should be pardoned? Sounds like it. Sounds like, based on your question.
Many people in the
Rodriguez, we'll look at that, Pam. Okay, let's take a look at it. You'll have to tell me. I don't know anything about it, but we'll take a look.
On Friday,
yeah, please.
Mr. President, market analysts are calling for a Santa rally. Typically, it's 5 trading days going into Christmas. In the first 2 trading days in January, that's a sign of market optimism. Do you anticipate, along with the historical low gas prices, that continuing into the first quarter?
Well, we've had the greatest stock market in history, Brian. We have a stock market that's gone up 52 times to new highs during a 10-month period, my 10 months. My first 10 months, we set a record. 52 days, we had the highest stock market in history, including a day ago. And I didn't look today. Maybe it's up today, I don't know. But we had 52 altogether, and there's never been anything like it. And the reason are the tariffs have brought vast amounts of wealth into our country. That countries that have taken our car companies, those car companies are all coming back. The AI is coming at levels that nobody's ever seen before. That's going to be a massive industry. Without the tariffs, we wouldn't have that. Chips are coming in. Chip companies are coming in from Taiwan and other places, but mostly from Taiwan, which has almost 100% of the market. And we're now making chips, and we're not paying anything. It's not the CHIPS Act where they give billions of dollars to companies and then they just take the money and they run. That was under Biden. The fact that I set tariffs up, and that if they don't make their chips here, they have to pay a big tariff. In order to send them into the U.S., they have to be here. Tariffs really work, in my opinion, almost only in the United States. They've been used against us successfully because we had presidents that had no clue. But tariffs really work. We have taken in hundreds of billions of dollars with tariffs, and more importantly, we've taken in countries and companies where, and even countries have sent their car-making people into the United States in order to avoid paying tariffs, and they'll build a plan.
So the president was being asked about several different things. This is just an open question and answer portion of this presentation that took place there of the military component for border control. But after the presentation, then the president opened it up for all types of questions. He was asked about peace in the Middle East and operations in Gaza, crypto, and one specific instance of someone who has gone to prison that they were asking, would he be willing to pardon that person? And then also talking about the stock market there. He talked about 52 increases in the last 10 months, and really he was praising the tariffs that he has enacted. Today is not the best day on the stock market as of right now. We are seeing some red there. The index is down about 0.1% at this point in time. So you can see there's plenty of red there on the screen. The Dow Jones has slipped more than 40 points. We also know that the NASDAQ has fallen 0.5%. So not the best. S&P 500 also has been sliding today. So the day, as you can see there, started in the green, but not having a good day on Wall Street as of right now, even though he was talking about the 52 increases in the last 10 months. It's 3 o'clock, though. Plenty more Chicago Live ahead. Stick with us. If you're an animal lover, we've got great news coming up after the break. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It is 3 o'clock right now, our last hour here together for Chicago Live. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're working on for this hour. So we anticipate talking about porch pirates. Oh my goodness, I don't know about you, but I spent a good portion of the weekend trying to do my last minute Christmas shopping and sending out a lot of packages, which means then you have to warn everybody about the delivery dates because you want to make sure that they get the package that you just sent to them. So we're going to talk about porch pirates who try to intercept these packages and keep them from getting to where they need to be for the people that we're sending them to. We'll talk about that around 3:45. We're also going to pull in, if we can, one of our newest reporters here, Brett Bugansky, as he is following up on a story from the last couple of weeks, a woman who was unfortunately hit by a vehicle, and he's been staying on top of that story with some new information about what took place to her and where things go from here in that case. We are going to call in our friend to Fox 32, Pastor Kenyatta Smith, and he each year we end up talking to him about his miracle on 95th Street. I get excited to hear about the project that he is working on each year, but then also the ways that we, the public, can help in it as they're looking to help 5,000 Chicago children. So we'll hear more about where things stand and how we can all be of service to their great mission. But first, animal lovers, this is the stuff we like to hear. So a preservation effort that is paying off for Kane County, and it all has to do with bison. Executive Director Ben Haberther is joining me now of the Kane County Forest Preserve. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me about this project. What was going on with the Burlington Prairie Forest Preserve? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, so Burlington Prairie Forest Preserve is just one of about 90 forest preserves we have in Kane County. So we're just over 24,300 acres, but it was the perfect place to reintroduce bison as it's in our most rural corridor in the northwest part of Kane County. But it also has a long entry road, which will allow people to come and see this restoration effort this spring.
I'm psyched. I don't know about anyone else, but I just think this is awesome. Tell us a little bit about bison.
Sure. So a lot of people will kind of confuse buffalo and bison. It's the same animal. Coming up from the 1800s, people said buffalo. Some people thought that might be confused with the Cape buffalo out in Africa. I don't think so much. So their Latin name is bison, and so everybody's been calling them bison since then. But we nearly, as a people, extincted them in the early 1830s. They were gone from Kane County, but later in the 1800s they were gone from just about everywhere in the United States. So we took them down to like 4,000 animals out in the Great Plains. Shortly thereafter, we realized that they weren't on the landscape anymore and started restoration efforts. It took a really long time. So some of what we've been talking about, this has been 200 years in the making to bring them back into Kane County. That's what we're talking about. So those distinct remnant genetics, to get those to a level that they can start sharing new herds across the country is what's taken so long, and it's where we're at right now. So the 6 animals that we brought on just last Friday onto Burlington are tied to that long provenance of this North American species.
Tell me a little bit, peel the the curtain back here on what an effort to revive a population consists of.
Right. So it's been generations of people that have tried to find these last remaining animals, steward them into the next generation, and keep this bloodline alive. And so, we didn't know in the Chicago suburbs if this is something we could do. It's such an iconic species. You think of Yellowstone and wide open spaces, and that's certainly their native environment. But there's been organizations like the Nature Conservancy, who we were working with, and the Intertribal Buffalo Council, who they work with, who've kept track of where these animals are throughout the years and how to make the herd larger, that sort of thing. So for us, we weren't tied to any of that particular effort, but finding partners who would be tied to that. So we're partnered with the American Indian Center of Chicago, and we're partnered with Rooter Bison, who know all about the bison husbandry. So we have a partner who's done this, even though this is the first foray by the Forest Preserve District, and so far so good.
Why was it important to partner with the American Indian Center in Chicago?
Right. So that's, especially a great question. We had started this at the Forest Preserve District 3 years ago as a straight ecological restoration project. So the mission of the Forest Preserve District is to restore and restock all the flora and fauna, protect nature for future generations. So some of that seems straightforward. We're just going to save all the pieces that used to be here, all the plants and animals that we can, bring them back. But when we dreamed of bringing the bison back, there's a whole human component here. So we had just gone down to actually WTTW studios to see the Ken Burns documentary on the American buffalo. And personally, I just really learned how intrinsically tied the story of the bison in America was very much the same story of Native Americans. Mm-hmm. So we put a 1-year pause on our project to be able to do not just the bison restoration, but to also do the interpretation of the Native American story. And so we wanted to find the right partner to do that. And that's who we found after an RFP process, working with Director Jay Young of AIC.
Tell me about working in connection with the Fermilab in Batavia.
Sure. So yes, well, we're very friendly with Fermilab. Fermilab was all of their particle physics people know about, but they were also the first to pioneer some of these ecological restoration techniques. So they've got bison over there. We're drawing a fine line where we've got bison on native prairie. So they're on a paddock. What we're trying to do is come up with a model that lets the animals live out as close as possible their natural life.
Yeah. And what are some of the initial observations that you're getting from watching them?
Yeah, so I was just out there this morning. It's only the second time that I've been out there since they've been released into the corral, and I was talking to some of the ranch hands. Some of the of the 6 animals, we've got 3 males, 3 females. There's 2 bulls that are 2 years old. The second largest bull seems to be the one that's becoming the dominant bull. It's a matriarchal society or group, but there's one bull that seems to be pulling ahead. So it'll be interesting. This is a subset of a much larger herd, which was 125 animals. So we'll see how this new group is going to work things out amongst themselves.
I would so love to watch all of this. You know what? You all should set up some type of camera out there. It's kind of like how people get obsessed with watching the eagles or, when they're having babies and stuff. Like, people would watch this.
Yes, 100%. We want to put a big critter cam out there. So we don't have it up there right now just because we're working to get the permanent power in there. So we've got power for the fence, and we have a small camera up there, but it's we're just using a wildlife observation one. We need to get one up there that's going to be able to be hosted by the web and get everybody looking at this, especially this winter, because we're asking people to wait till the spring to come out. So we got to show them something.
And see, that was going to be my next question. Like, to see them in these cold temperatures or the snow and how they react to it. Look, where does the rest of the herd?
So these animals came from the Chusa grasslands out in Lee County. And so they kind of pioneered some of these restoration techniques that we were talking about. And they've got some animals bison live about 20 years, that they have animals in that 13 to 15-year-old range that kind of show the young animals how to be bison in the open.
When you all are going through this process, what are some of the things that you look for in observing them as time goes on?
Yeah, so we're looking, like I said, we originally began thinking about this as ecological restoration. So you may have heard about this concept of a keystone species, an animal in an ecosystem that has a disproportionate impact on that system. That's what a bison does. Beaver are the same thing. They come in and make a dam and they have a huge impact on everything else. What bison do is they wallow. So they'll get down and form these kind of giant dust baths in these little depressional areas that will support all kinds of other life. And so we're looking to see what that behavior is going to look like, and then just how they eat across the prairie. So prairie's made up of grasses and wildflowers. What do they like to eat first? Everything we hear is that they prefer the grasses, actually to the betterment of the wildflowers. You think if they munch those grasses down, that leaves more room for wildflower seed to spread. So we're going to watch and see how that happens. That's more diverse prairie, and you get a whole suite of pollinators, birds, butterflies, and everything else. So it affects the whole system. We're measuring that.
How does it feel being a part of this?
Oh, it feels great. So this is why I do this kind of work. I didn't know if we'd be able to get to this level, and I don't know that we would have without the partners that we've found. So everything's kind of coming in, just working together to make this happen. So it's very exciting. It's we've had some delays in making sure that everything was right, but everything's going well now, and it's very rewarding, and we look forward to sharing it with everybody.
Okay, and we can't come out until the spring. No date set yet, right?
No date set, and then so we're deferring to the bison experts that we're working with to see when it's good. We also have we close that preserve anyhow, just due to blowing winds with the snows that we've had. It's just inaccessible. But once that's opened up and the animals seem calm and acclimated, we'll get folks out there.
Do you have any concerns at this point, like about getting to that point?
No, we just everything is looking as designed, and they're in the paddock. We're going to kind of put some more permanent power out at the site, as I mentioned, just to make sure everything stays secure. But we've had no issues. I guess the only thing I'm a little worried about as our executive director is it being too popular, and so we want to make sure we have plenty of room and space for people to visit. We'll have our naturalist staff out there to help and interpret. Once I'm sure once we get good weather, we're gonna have a lot of folks. We have a lot of folks out there in bad weather, but it's a closed gate right now, so we'll see once it gets nice weather.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for what you're doing to bring the bison back. This is really amazing stuff. And please let us know when you have a camera out there so that we can peep in on them from time to time.
Absolutely. We got to move quick on that. And thank you for letting us share the story.
Absolutely. All right. 3:16 right now. Let's take a quick break, everyone. All right, everyone, 3:18 right now as we give you a live look out at a lot of folks who are very bundled up at the Bean, but making sure they get those pictures in. At the moment, it's 24 degrees outside, feels like 12, and it might feel a little balmy after this weekend and the negative wind chill degrees that we had over this weekend. But of course, help is on the way. The meteorologists are saying there are 30s and 40s even in our very near future. So we're just going to keep hope alive. It came alive here in Chicago. So we're going to keep hope alive here going into the rest of the week, that those temperatures are going to rebound just a bit. We know it's winter. It's winter. You know, we're coming up on Christmas time, but rebound just a bit. Okay. Speaking of coming up on Christmas, each year we love to see Operation Cover Chicago and the miracle on 95th Street that they pull off. And Pastor Kenyatta Smith is back with us with another appeal, because it really does take a full village to make this thing come to life. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show today. Yes, each year we try our best to make sure that no child is left behind, that we change the narrative of families all over Chicago. And yeah, this year we're definitely short.
How short are you? And how much time do you have?
Well, our toy drive is next Monday, so we are like 7 days away. And we're probably about 8,000 or 9,000 toys short. of our goal. And we're just making an appeal to see if there's anybody that would hear our mission and want to be a part of changing the narrative of children all around Chicagoland area.
Mm-hmm. When you say 8,000 or 9,000 short, some people will be like, oh, did they do any work? So I think it's important to put the context in that this was a collection of 30,000 toys that they were looking for. So you all have done the bulk of the work and still looking for the last bit of it.
So yeah, we tried to give toys to at least 20,000 families across the Chicagoland area, and so we've done the bulk of the work, but we're still short, and so we're just trying to make an appeal that somebody would hear this story and see the humanity into because we're not just giving a toy, we're giving hope, and see the humanity into giving a child hope, and so. We're appealing to the general public, those residents of Chicago, and anybody who here, maybe it's a corporation or a big box store that want to help change the narrative for children. Otherwise, right now, narrative is that they don't have anything for Christmas. Mm-hmm. Anytime a family have to think about grocery or bills or Christmas, more likely they're gonna pick Christmas last, and they're gonna have something set aside for their groceries or their actual bills. And so we want to just help. And the way we help is to give hope.
Yeah, you all end up with a crazy line each year. But just talk about the impact on the day of giving.
Well, I'll tell you, last year was probably the most special year that we probably had in the last 14 years of doing this. There was a child that was burned out. They lost everything, including their grandfather, and they was in a line. We found out about it and took the whole family and changed Christmas for them. And so that's what it's all about, changing the perspective of the children and their families who otherwise don't know that somebody's out there really looking to help them, right? And so we don't only bring a toy, we bring hope, right? And so we're just looking for people who will hear this message and want to give and want to change the narrative, because there's children out there who really need to know that somebody cares, because we realize people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah, I love that saying. When you think about last year and the need last year, what are the challenges to meeting the need this year?
Well, I think every year is unique. This year with the terrorists and the toys, and they're almost 45-50% more. There are businesses who have really took a hard hit, and so we had a lot of business who told us that we really want to help, but we just don't have it this year. I mean, inflation and these tariffs have really hurt our corporation that we really leaned on. And so we're just making an appeal that the average person that would see the need and realize it could have been one of our children and want to give.
Tell me about some of the toys that are around you right now. Like, what are some of the things that people could pick up and give that would be helpful?
So a bike, a skateboard. Our hardest shoppers are our 14 to 16-year-old, because it seems like they're the most forgotten. And so the electronics, our PlayStations, our TVs, our electric bikes, our hoverboards, it's really whatever person put on their heart to give, or they're monetary, and we go and get it for them. But it's for them to really decide, hey, I want to deal with this age group and be a blessing to this age group.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Can't forget about the teens. And they take a lot of lessons from this, maybe more so than even the young kids, about people helping in your time of need.
Yes. And, I'll tell you, when you start to show our communities that there's hope out there, that people care, you see a big change, right? While we have a lot of these team takeovers and everything, we find that our teens are now more in position of volunteering and helping, because they know and understand the need that's really festering in our community, with our parents being underemployed or have no job at all. It's important for us to share what we have, and most of all, let our parents and our families around Chicago know that there's somebody out there who care. And so we're really pleading to our constituents. We're really pleading to those that would hear this news and say, hey, this is a good place for us to help. Like, it's not just a toy. We're changing lives.
And I hope that people will flood your website. Tell everybody how what they need to do to donate.
So it's easy. You can either go to our GoFundMe page, Operation Cover Chicago 2025, or you can text OCC25 to 342 312, or you can just come to our office, 9540 South Harvard. That's 9540 South Harvard, Chicago, Illinois, 60628. Or you can call us, 773-253-7474.
And I want to just put a pin in it here and say $50 gives a toy for one child, $250 covers a family of 5, $500 helps a family of 10. So there's so many ways that everyone can be of service. He gave you many ways to reach out and to be a part of this wonderful effort. What is your pastor? So I want to ask you this as we leave you. What is your Christmas message this year?
You know what? I'll be honest. I'll be real transparent. With our community still trying to recover from COVID and all the other things that are compiled, I think our message is simple: to help our community, help change the narrative of families are in and around Chicago.
And everybody can do that in their own way. Again, how much time do we have to help?
We have literally 6 days left to our toy drive. Our toy giveaway.
Okay. All right, everybody. You have your marching orders. We know the timeline here, and we just know that we can meet this goal. You need about 8,000 to 9,000 gifts. Again, donations will help on that road. So I just know that they're going to meet it, and we can exceed it.
Listen, thank you so much for having me on. Like I said, you can go to our GoFundMe page. You can come to our office, 9550 South Harvard, or you can call us, 773-253-7474. There's a quote that is not in the manner that you give, is that you give. And so we're just hoping somebody will see this mission and want to give.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping so as well. Thank you so much for your time and for your gift, in using your gift to help so many people in the community.
Thank you.
All right. Best of luck to you. God bless. Take care. It's 3:28 right now, everybody. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 3:31 right now, and this is a follow-up to a story that we have followed for the last couple of weeks here. A woman was run over by the driver of a pickup truck. It had snow partially covering the windshield when she was crossing the street with the right-of-way. So let's go ahead and bring in Brett Bugansky, our newest reporter here to Fox 32, as he has just spoken with her attorney. Brett, how extensive are her injuries?
So from what the lawyers are telling me is that this is the stuff that causes permanent damage. Had 4 different surgeries. She has screws in her pelvis, ankle, and this is the kind of stuff where she's going to have to learn how to walk. And let's go back to where this all started. It happened where we're standing right now at Belmont and Pulaski. This is in the Avondale neighborhood. It was Friday morning, just before 9:30, right at the intersection here at Belmont and Pulaski. There was a green light from the driver. She also had the right of way, getting the green light in the crosswalk. As she was walking across the street, she was coming back from the grocery store. She had 2 different bags, and we saw in the video that we obtained last week, a man in a red pickup truck goes and hits her, and not only runs over her once, but it happened twice. And the man did stay at the scene, and she was apparently, from what the lawyer was telling me, is that she was screaming. And this has traumatized her, and this is the stuff that not only causes physical damage, but her lawyer, Stephen Phillips, told me today, she is traumatized from this whole thing. So they are getting ready to file a lawsuit against this driver. And just moments before we went on the air, I obtained information on the driver who is accused of hitting and running over her. So once we get off the air, I'm going to go and give him a call and try to get his side of the story here, because there was a lot of questions about what happened here. We found out from Chicago police that he was given 1 citation. They didn't specify what that was. I am told by the woman's lawyers that it was failed to yield the right of way. So we have confirmed her information. Her name is Beata Koszelska. She's 67 years old. She's originally from Poland. She doesn't have a lot of family. And I also found out that there was a GoFundMe set up for her because her injuries are extensive. Once everything is said and done, we're talking about thousands of dollars that it's going to take for her to recover during this whole thing. But she's still in the hospital right now. She's not doing well right now. That's what her lawyer tells me. But her lawyer feels that the man who hit her should be held accountable, because you see the video, there's clearly snow on the windshield. There's snow covering the hood. And when you see the height of the truck and you see where Beata had come up to, you start to wonder if the driver even saw her. So that's another reason why we're trying to contact the driver as well, to get his side of the story, because certainly he deserves an opportunity to explain what happened here on Friday, December 5th.
Yeah, I have so many questions about this. I mean, so was it a work truck? Was it a particular company?
It looks like in the video it was a red Ford pickup truck. Whether or not he was using it for work purposes, that remains to be seen. However, in the video, you see him wearing a bright, I believe it's a green vest. So there are questions about whether or not he was working, whether he was coming back from something or not. And he was in that video, I believe, had somebody in the passenger. And once this woman gets run over, you see other people get out of their cars and run and tell the guy to stop. So this is certainly a lot of questions here. When I spoke to Stephen Phillips, Beata's lawyer, I said, have you been able to contact the driver? He said, I did call him to try to get his side of the story, and he allegedly hung up on him right away.
Okay, and when we say she was run over twice or hit twice, how did that happen?
When you see in the video, there's clearly, and it almost looks like it's in slow motion, but in reality, it appears that that driver wasn't even driving that fast, because it was coming off a stoplight. She was walking in the crosswalk going west. This driver, it appears, was going to go right, going north down Pulaski. And you see the initial hit. You see her get run over. The truck in the video stops for a brief moment, Then about 5 seconds later, moves up once again. So that's the second time she was run over. And then everybody came by and was going and calling 911, calling Chicago police, calling an ambulance for this woman, because this certainly is awful as it was. Some people didn't think she was going to survive it.
Oh my goodness. And this happened in the morning. So there wasn't like it was nighttime, you couldn't see type of situation either.
It happened right before 9:30 in the morning on Friday, December 5th. And because of that video, that has gone viral. And a lot of our viewers here at Fox 32 Chicago have been commenting on the video. The one thing that they noticed right away is the snow covering part of the windshield, on the hood, on the roof of that truck. And just a reminder to everybody out there, there's still snow on the ground. We're still not technically in winter yet, but it's certainly feeling like it right now. Illinois state law says you cannot have any obstructions on your windshield. You have to have that cleared off. And certainly what Beata's lawyers are going to try to prove here in this case is the fact that this car, at least in the video, shows that there was obstructions there, and they feel like the video is very damning and it shows that the driver was at fault, or that's what they're going to be trying to prove.
It is a worst case scenario for that common reminder about getting rid of any obstructions, but especially when you have snow in our area for a while, an extended period of time, making sure that it's clear each and every time you get behind the wheel. When the attorney talks about accountability, are they looking at it monetarily, or are they just talking about from the judicial system?
I asked them that very question, and while they didn't get into specifics about any kind of monetary settlement, at the very least, they feel like it's only the right thing to do for this man to pay for her medical bills, which we already know have been very extensive. 4 different surgeries. She has screws in her pelvis. You see screws in her ankles. She has a broken arm. This is the kind of stuff where you look at this and say, it's going to be a long road to recovery. After all, this woman is 67 years old and she's still hospitalized, and she's going to have to learn how to walk again. This is the kind of stuff that could take months, maybe even years to recover from. And just speaking with her lawyer, and I asked, what's her mindset right now? So it's not good, especially this is happening during the holidays. This is the time when it tends to get darker out outside. But you look at this right before Christmas, doesn't have a lot of family, has one friend who started this GoFundMe here, and now she's having to spend these days leading up to Christmas in a hospital, learning if she's ever going to walk again.
Have we asked any questions from the police department as to why just a citation, why not more?
That is a very good question, and the only thing that we've been able to confirm with Chicago police is that the driver is 39 years old, citation, didn't specify why. Perhaps there's privacy reasons here, but I feel like when you have something that is this public and the injuries that this woman has suffered and just all the circumstancing surrounding this case, you could make that case for why more information has come out. The other thing that the lawyer was talking about here is because this was very public, the way everything happened here, he wants to hear from the people who witnessed this. They haven't been able to get a hold of any of the people who came to her aid or who perhaps saw everything that happened here, but certainly they would like to hear from others just to find out they were the ones who saw it. They want to be able to find out and get to the bottom of everything here.
Yeah, well, at least people did speak up and run to help her that day. I mean, it literally could be the difference between her, at the very least, even if she's not doing well psychologically, physically being here as a result of the people who stood up for her on that day.
The timing on everything is so key here. And in this video, you see an ambulance get there within a minute, it seems, if that's the case. But there are a lot of questions here because you see this woman get hit. You see her get run over twice. And that is a big question. That's certainly something that we would like to ask the driver is, did you realize you hit this woman? Did you hear something? Because from what her lawyer, Stephen Phillips, told me is that she was screaming. Other people were yelling at this person to stop. They seemed flabbergasted at why this was able to happen, especially this time of day.
Yeah, but the driver got out of the vehicle. So I guess that's where you're like, wait, how did you not know you hit a person if you got out of your vehicle?
Yes, and there was a passenger in that truck as well. So still a lot of questions of, did the driver see her? Did the passenger see her? Did you hear the cries for help? I mean, there is, I mean, when you see this video, and you can see it right now on our website, fox32chicago.com, you can decide for yourself what happened here. But when you look back at the video, I don't know how you wouldn't see her other than you didn't see her at all because your view was obstructed.
Yeah. All right, Brett. So I know you're continuing to work on putting this piece together. When can we see something on the air?
In about 19 minutes from now, we're going to have Fox 32 Chicago News at 4 o'clock, the first floor. So you are going to hear for the first time from Beata Shelska's lawyer, Stephen Phillips, about why they decided to get in this case, but also just the damning evidence in this case. We're parked right in front of the Belfort Tavern. The man I had spoken to earlier, the owner of that tavern, had given us the video of this, and he had seen the aftermath of everything when we first reported on this story last week. And he had to go back to his surveillance video himself, and he looked at it, and he was very surprised and said, wow, this is very just interesting stuff here. And he was also trying to get a hold of Chicago police as well to give them a copy of this thing. So I am not sure if Chicago police has a copy of this, but certainly the bar owner here has been trying to get a hold of them themselves. So certainly there's a lot of people who want to get a hold of people and get their side of the story here.
Yeah, well, it's probably a godsend that he has, especially for her in the end, that he has that video and captured what took place. Brett, thank you so much. We'll see you on the air for First at 4.
Hey, looking forward to that. Thanks for having me on.
All right, take care. 3:43 right now. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back with our final segment. And welcome back right now, 3:45, and let's take you to Wall Street as things have closed for the day. The market is closed, and you can see we closed in the red there. Down quite a bit for the Dow Jones. We're down 40 points. We're also seeing 41 points there. We also see that the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ also took a tumble today. NASDAQ slipped about 0.6% here. So what I'm seeing is that this could be in part, they're calling it a wild card here, something that could affect the markets this week, as we'll be looking throughout the week, is a possible peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. So it's always, sometimes we see factors that are national, nationwide factors. Sometimes we see international factors that can affect the markets. But this possible peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, apparently there was some progress made on it. You heard the president being asked about it, then some of the reporters asking him about it as he was speaking from the Oval Office. So Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the country is willing to drop their ambition to join NATO in exchange for some security guarantees here. So we'll see what happens as the week goes on, but it does appear that that's at least a part of the overall picture into what we're seeing there in terms of the markets closing down today. We're going to bring in a home tech expert from CNET, Joe Supin, to talk a little bit about something that I think affects so many people this time of year. We're all sending packages here and there, and you're concerned about, first I need to know the delivery date. Is it going to make it there before Christmas? But then you're also concerned about where exactly you're sending it and whether someone might intercept it along the way. Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So how frequent is it that porch pirates intercept our goodwill?
Yeah, our survey found that 1 in 7 U.S. adults have had a package stolen in the past year. So that equates to millions of people. It's actually down about 3 percentage points compared to last year, but it is still a huge issue.
Okay. And how are they doing this?
A lot of times it's pretty simple. It's not that sophisticated, really. It's just kind of prowling a neighborhood, looking to see if there's any packages left out, and then kind of getting in and out as quickly as possible.
I'm seeing that there's a new report on them using Wi-Fi jammers. Explain that to me.
Yeah, we have seen a couple news reports pop up this holiday season. They're basically small handheld devices, and they kind of blur a home security camera or video doorbell so that person can't take video evidence of the theft. We don't necessarily know how widespread it is, but that is another tool that we're seeing.
Wow. Okay. So what should people do?
Yeah, the steps you can take to prevent this are pretty simple and stuff that people are probably already doing in a lot of cases. Tracking your package and knowing exactly when it's going to be delivered is really effective. So you can ask a friend or neighbor to grab something. We have found that video doorbells and home security systems are really good deterrents. And another good option is to require a signature on a pricier package or have it shipped to a nearby store or post office instead.
Mm-hmm. From a law enforcement perspective, if a package is stolen, what do you do?
Well, you always file a police report, and if you have video evidence, that's even better. There's no guarantee that it'll be investigated or it'll produce results, but a lot of times if there are a number of thefts reported in the same area, it's more likely to be investigated. We also recommend that you report the theft with the seller and file a claim with the postage carrier, and you can oftentimes get a replacement, but it might take a couple weeks.
Who's responsible if a package is stolen?
Yeah, most retailers are not necessarily responsible. They don't have to provide you with a replacement for something like a theft, but we have seen some of the bigger retailers are pretty good about trying to do their best to get something replaced.
Mm-hmm. What maybe is some other advice that you're giving people, especially as we just get into a time when more and more of us shop online instead of going to a big box store?
Yeah, if you're really having a high volume of shipments, you can purchase like a delivery box, and that has like oftentimes a code that you can give to your carrier, so you can ensure that your packages are locked up and not just sitting around. Another option is services like Amazon Prime and Walmart Plus have something called in-garage drop-offs, where they can actually leave it inside your garage and then close it on the way out. You do have to have a compatible garage door with those, but that's another good option.
So you all put out an annual holiday package theft report. What are some of the other areas related to this that you all cover, and what were your findings?
Yeah, I think another interesting finding was that 3% of people have actually caught an attempted package theft through a
Yikes.
video doorbell or security camera. So we might not sound like a huge number, but it is millions of people, and we do know that video evidence can be helpful.
Yeah. And 30% of U.S. adults reported that in the past year they've already either had a package stolen, an attempt made, or know someone who was targeted. I mean, these numbers have to just keep going up.
Yeah, it is a huge number. And like I said, it is the number of people who have actually had a package stolen themselves is slightly down. So we do think that the adoption of more home security technology is acting as a deterrent. But at the same time as it's going down, the dollar value on the number of packages we're having shipped is going up. So there's more out there for the taking for thieves.
What's like the economic impact on this? Like, how much does it translate into?
Yeah, we found just for this holiday season specifically, it's $300 per person, which is 80 billion, $300 that they're having shipped, not that is being stolen. But that's $80 billion. So it's really a huge amount of money that's sitting out there and is easily targeted by thieves.
What are you hoping that people take from the report that you all publish?
I think just an awareness of this issue, like you said, the economic impact is huge. But it's also something that you can take simple steps that are pretty effective in preventing it. So just being aware when you're having gifts shipped this holiday season, if you can do simple things, you're more likely to have that gift to be able to give this season.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Anything else that you think people should keep in mind?
No, I think we covered everything.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you.
Yeah, happy holidays. Thanks for having me.
All right. You take care. 3:53. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:57 right now, so let me tell you a little bit about what's coming up next. First at 4, you heard us discussing a situation in Belmont Cragen that took place to a woman. We were speaking with Brett Bugansky about the accident that has changed her life forever. I mean, first and foremost, it's a blessing that she's still alive to be able to tell the story, but her attorneys are really looking for some accountability after she was hit not once but twice in the right-of-way, and now trying to look for some type of help with all of her medical bills as she has to relearn how to walk, among other things, as she processes the traumatic situation that's taken place to her. So Brett is going to have more from that particular situation. Also, the property tax outrage. They're going to be talking about this at 4 o'clock because this has been such a huge story for all of us over the last couple of months here. Those bills came out late, and they came out with incredible increases for so many people. And so local pastors are now joining in this in this fight to help homeowners. Plus, going to be talking about the 10-win Bears. Who thought we would be saying 10-win Bears? But it's happening, and they have a short week before they have their get-back game against the Packers on Saturday. Plenty to come. First at 4. We will see you back here for Chicago Live tomorrow from 1 to 4. See you then.
From Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Now at 4, Chicago police are stepping up security after a deadly terror attack in Australia during a Hanukkah celebration.
We're learning more about the death of Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife. Their son has now been charged with their murders.
And it's still a little cold out there, but those bitter temps are moving out. Good afternoon, I'm Terrence Lee.
And I'm Sylvia Perez. Weather is first at 4. Yes, it's been a cold weekend, another cold day, but the good news is we're going to have a little warmth, aren't we, Emily?
A little bit of warmth, but yes, we have to be very patient for it still because it's still very, very cold. We have temperatures right now that are sitting in the lower 20s, but we also have a breeze out of the southwest that's making a huge difference when it comes to your wind chill. So your wind chill temperatures right now still in the single digits for some of us. We're up to around 11 degrees at O'Hare, 13 is what it's feeling like in Aurora, 15 in Joliet, 10 in Merrillville, and it's feeling like 12 degrees.